I didn't kiss her. For once, she kissed me.
Fucking joke, man.
I just want to ask you, did anything happen between you and Leisha in partner swap?
Actually, so disrespectful to me and to Leah and to Reiss that this is even getting brought up, and I don't know why.
I really want to lie and say I've been a Lee fan from the start, but I haven't. I didn't like the way she came into the experiment and the way she treated her wife. And sadly, over time, she's just made things worse, in my opinion. And maybe they should have left earlier. Yes, I was with her when she went after Julia Ruth, but I think after that, I really have been put off by her, and I don't know why she felt the need to behave the way she behaved in this episode. I thought it was a bit too much. Anyway, and then, you know, the situation with Reiss and Leisha, we keep making it seem as though it's something new. We've known this from the very start, that this man was a slow burn, and sadly she was a fast burn, and they were never going to meet. And so the idea that this is being hammered on, I don't get. The Bailey and Rebecca situation is something they knew from the start when they decided to give this thing a go. So the idea and the audacity to be offended, personally for me, I don't understand it. So I can't wait to see what happens with that. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 10, Episode 32. We're almost there, 4 more episodes to go. Thanks everyone for watching. Anyway, so we have the couples reflecting on their day out and sort of how it went. The likes of Abby and John, they are always going to want to stay out of the mess. And it's just aligned that there are two people who don't like confrontation, two people who don't like drama, and they've managed to find their way of sort of staying away from that. You have David and Kia. They're having a conversation, and Kia reveals that, you know, Julia Ruth had told everyone that she had slept with Joe, and then he put her on mute. And so it's really sad because Julia Ruth played herself. She left the experiment. She came in knowing what she wanted and decided to go for what she thought the people would want to see her with. And sadly, that didn't work out. And so because it didn't work out, she has decided to go after the husbands. And now everybody's dragging it through the mud. Joe knows he's done a couple of things wrong, so he's not going to turn up for the, you know, the mixers because he doesn't want to be cornered. For Kia to sort of bring up the fact that Julia Ruth was put on mute and now she's going after Stephen, it doesn't look good. It really doesn't look good. And hopefully Julia Ruth has an exit plan for this because it doesn't look good. You have Lee and Leah. Well, there is tension in their apartment because it's revealed that Lee kissed Leisha. We get to see the clips. I feel like, yes, it was platonic, but still they didn't need to do that. Lee knew exactly what she was doing because they kissed accidentally, and then she said, oh, do you want to kiss me? And why she said that, I don't get it, because had tables been turned and had Leah done that, she would have burnt the whole apartment block. So I don't get her confusion. And on this, I'm Team Leah, sorry. Reiss and Leisha, they have been dragged, or their storyline has been brought to the forefront just because nothing else sort of stakes. I think production tried to sort of mess about with other storylines, and this seems to be their standing point, whereby we are going to be hammered on the head until the end of this, that, you know, there is concern about their sort of pace at which they're moving in their relationship. Reiss has said from day one he's non-confrontational, he hates confrontation, he hates drama, and sadly nobody has asked Reiss what exactly happened in your previous relationship that has put you so much of confrontation, because we don't know why he's easily triggered. Nobody has taken time to ask him, but we're all aware that he is triggered. And so the idea that we just keep going on about this and not getting to the root cause of it leads me to believe that production is just doing this for ratings. Anyway, you have Leisha on her part. She's saying she fears rejection, so she's worried that this man is going to leave her. And it's like, well, what do you want him to do? What exactly do you want him to do? He's been honest with you. He hasn't faked his feelings. If he had faked his feelings, then it's one thing. But he's always been honest with you and told you what he wants in a relationship. It was up to you and the experts to sort of dig deeper and find out what the trigger point was. Anyway, it's the final dinner party. We have all the couples that are still together in the experiment come up. We have David and Kia. They are the first couple to come in. They are in a very happy space. I think their only fallout in this whole experience was right at the start when they didn't know one another. And when they were corrected, Kia sort of made amends to make sure that they were on the same page. And then the other issue was the Catgate. And since then, they've been fine. So you have Kia sort of asking David, are you going to have a conversation with Lee about her kissing Leisha? Because David and Lee sort of, I think, grew closer when they shared their apartment. So it makes sense that Lee would expect David to ask the question instead of Kia because they're not that close. They're followed in by Rebecca and Bailey. Rebecca and Bailey are saying their main issue is the distance, and they don't know how they're going to navigate that. They've been trying to find a way around it, and it seems Rebecca is the one at the end of the day who's going to do the moving because Bailey can't leave his daughter. I don't understand with this situation with the daughter. Does he see his daughter every day? Does he have, what is it? Does he live with his ex? What is it about the fact that they're saying he can't move? Because they could move halfway. That way he could still see his daughter if he's going to pick her up for the weekend or see her after work or whatever. So I don't quite understand why we keep making a big deal about this unless we just need a storyline. It's then revealed that, there was an issue with Lee kissing Leisha, and so tensions have already, well, the gossip has started, and now it's just a matter of waiting to see what happens. You have Lee and Leah walking holding hands. There was a lot of tension. You could see something wasn't right. They were just being performative in how they held their hands. I think they did that just for the performance. And as soon as they walk in, you have David go over to Lee and sort of ask questions about what happened. Did you tell Leah what you did? And for Lee to be very sort of dismissive about it doesn't make sense. I am Team Leah on this. I've always liked Leah. I am Team Leah on this. And sadly, I don't get what Lee doesn't understand. For her to say, there's no connection with us. I've never said I'm attracted to her. I've never said she's my type. So I don't get why you're upset. I'm just like, girl, please be for real. Please be for real. You know what you did, and you did it to trigger your partner. So I don't get why you are surprised that this is how she feels. So you then had her storm off with David because she wasn't getting her way. And then she was saying to David, the issue is not that I kissed the girl, it's that I kissed Leisha. And it's like she's trying to make it seem like there's a bit of jealousy because Leah wanted to be the one that kissed Leisha. I didn't get that. And for them to then call Leah to say, come across, and she goes across. All Leah has been doing throughout this experiment is following this girl and doing whatever this girl wants. So the idea and the audacity to now pretend to be ignorant of what she did it on purpose. She was trying to trigger Leah because she knows she was never going to say yes at final vows. So now they're getting to the end. She's ready to pull eject and jump out of the aeroplane, as far as I'm concerned. You had Leisha and Reiss walk in. For them to walk in and then you have Lee sort of run and make a joke about the kiss, I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. I thought that was very distasteful. There was no need for all that. I feel like it was very insensitive of Lee. I feel like had Leah done exactly what Lee did, there would have been third world war in the dinner party. So the audacity for this woman to make a joke out of it and pretend as though she doesn't see what's wrong with it, I don't get it. I really don't get it. You had Reiss sit down and have conversations with the others, being asked, where are you as a unit? What's going on? He was being asked by Bailey. And he was saying, I don't like drama. I don't like confrontation and things like this Kissgate stuff. I don't like that because that easily triggers me and sets me off. So I don't understand where the experts were coming from when they were saying that, Reiss is trying to sort of set boundaries or be conditional in the fact that he's saying to her, if you don't, give me drama, then I will stay with you. No, I don't think that's it. I think there's more to that relationship. Than we are being told. For them to then sit down with Leisha and Leisha be asked, about the kiss, and then there's questions about the motive behind the kiss. As I said, I feel like Lee knows they're coming to the end and wanted to push eject. So this is why she's gone ahead and kissed Leisha, because she knew that would trigger Leah. And then Leah would say, no, I can't say no. I can't say yes on final vows. That's the impression that I get. we have Abigail and John come in. They are always happy. They are always peace loving. They're in their very happy little bubble. They say they are very happy with how the experiment has gone, and they're at this point whereby they've exchanged keys, so if need be, someone can drop off things at the other person's apartment. I feel like they met, as I said before, in at the point in their lives when they're ready for marriage. And so this is why these things have worked for them. Yes, they got someone that was along the lines of what I think with Abigail, she would have taken any good man. So had she been coupled up with Bailey, she would have taken Bailey unless he had issues. So whatever man she was coupled up with, she was prepared to make it work because she had been through the worst when she was cheated on. So I think this is why it was easy for her to sort of get along with her husband. You then have the couples go in for dinner. As they sit down for dinner, Leah sort of asks, what has been the highlight or the lowest point of being in the experiment? And you have Abby and John both say, John said he was worried about who he was going to be paired with. So turning around and seeing Abigail was the highlight for him. Abby, on her part, says him turning around and her seeing his blue eyes, that was enough for her. And so they were two people that were instantly attracted to one another at first sight. And so it seems things have gradually grown. And because they are non-confrontational and they don't like the drama, they've been able to sort of form a unit around themselves and sort of stay in their little bubble away from everything else that has happened with everybody else. Reiss and Leisha, Reiss said the last night on their honeymoon, he said he loved the fact that they set out this date for them. They had candles everywhere. That was the highlight for them. Leisha, on her part, says that was also a highlight for her because the honeymoon was a great experience for the two of them. We then have the low point, and Reiss says it's the final days because they went to the theme park. He thought it would bring out their inner child. He just wanted them to be running around carefree. And Leisha, on her part, agrees that the final date was a date. The final date wasn't it, and sadly things just went left after that. You then had a conversation whereby they were sort of talking, and Leisha said, she feels like Reiss doesn't have, well, it sounds like he doesn't have the bandwidth or the capacity to sort of understand what she's saying because he is sort of making comments and saying, I'm reassuring you. And she is finding it as being dismissed or being minimized. You had Leah chime in. Yes, Leah was giving the right information or the right advice, but she's not the right messenger as far as I'm concerned, given what's just happened with the kiss and the stuff. I didn't think it was a place to speak. I think I really wish she had kept quiet and sort of left it to somebody else to speak. So the honesty box comes out, and John is the first person to ask a question. And so his question is, what sort of woman did you think would be waiting for you down the aisle? And how did I compare? That was Abby asking him. And he said, I wanted someone who could smile, who had a good sense of humor, and someone with curves. And he got that and more because, he said he got a partner who gave him things that he wasn't expecting or things he didn't know he needed. He got someone who's very supportive and someone who's his loudest champion. I loved that. That was really sweet that he recognizes that she's not just what he had on the list, but she comes with more. So that was very sweet. Abby's question was, what do you see in our future? She said, I came here looking for a life partner. You're my soulmate. I see us, starting a family. I see us finding our forever home and sort of moving to wherever we feel is best for the two of us. And I love that. They are always very clean cut. There's never any drama or toxicity around Abby and John. So I love that for them. You have David and Kia. David's was, how are you feeling about us taking our marriage into the real world? David's response was, I'm worried. I am worried that I won't fit into your world. It makes sense because at the end of the day, we've all seen how Kia and his friends live. And I think David being very slow and very laid back when he's around his own sort of home environment, it would be sort of intimidating to suddenly go from that to this very sort of out there nightlife and clubbing and partying and whatever. So I get his insecurity. Rebecca's question was, how do you feel about leaving your life in Liverpool and moving to be closer to Bailey? And she said, I'm torn, I'm confused, I'm worried, especially when she has kids, because she would want to raise her kids around her family. So she's worried at the idea that she might have to raise her kids on her own. It makes sense. Bailey's question, he was asked, we're used to staying together. Do you think your feelings will change when we leave the experiment with the distance? And this question was worrying. I totally agree with the experts. It was worrying because he's worried that, they may lose what they have. So he's worried that the distance might cause them to lose whatever relationship or connection that they have. And he wishes he could bottle it. My problem with Beck and Bailey is the fact that I don't know what they have. I really don't. I can't tell you what they have because we've always never really got to the bottom of their relationship. And so it's made it difficult for someone like myself to connect with them and find out what's going on there. Next up was Lisa and Reiss. Reiss asked Leisha, what aspect of my personality do you struggle with the most? And she said, you're not easy to read and you're closed off. And I think his trauma or whatever has happened to him in his past relationships is the reason why Reiss is the man that he is. And sadly, it wasn't unpacked enough for him to accept Leisha because Leisha came in at 100. They remind me of Jeff and Shanice. If you've watched Jeff and Shanice, Shanice walked into the experiment and immediately she was married to Jeff T. Jeff T took him a long time to warm up and now they're happily married. And so for Leisha and Reiss, unless they get support and help, they are going to struggle with that marriage. Reiss was asked, how likely do you think will be together a year from now? And he said, we just need things to calm down. It makes sense because a lot of people that have been on Married at First Sight have complained that you go from having, producers and everybody telling you what to do to suddenly it's just the two of you. And so the silence at times can be deafening. It can be scary. And I think this is what Reiss is trying to say, but he wasn't able to articulate himself very well, that they need to leave the experiment. They need to leave the pressures of the experiment and see how they cope outside of that to see if they can make it work a year from now. So it's up to the two of them to decide what they want to do. Next up was Leah and Lee. Lee was asked, do you think I've been respectful in this marriage? She said, not to my level. She said, not to my level, because you flirted with people, you've made innuendos that I didn't like. And Bailey was chomping at the bits. For me personally, I have a feeling Bailey's issue with Leah had nothing to do with Leah flirting with Rebecca, but it had more to do with what happened at the guy's event that they went to, whether it's because she went after Stephen very hard or whatever else happened. It had nothing to do with that because Bailey then went all in and was saying you're very flirty, you make sexual innuendos, and so you ended up having Rebecca sort of having to step in and try and defend Leah and say, this is a bit too much, you're making it seem like Leah and I had something going on, but it was something harmless. This is who Leah is. She's always joking. She means no harm out of people when we're sitting. She's the only person who's always making the jokes and lifting the mood. So I don't get it. And so with Lee, she was finally able, or she was trying to vindicate herself and sort of make it seem like, actually, although I kissed Leisha, I'm not the bad guy. For her to bring Leah and Leisha into it, knowing that you have Reiss who doesn't like drama, I didn't like that. For her to question what happened during your partner swap. If you had issues with what happened during the partner swap, you've had days or weeks to ask those questions, but you chose that moment in your defense to try and sort of make yourself the victim, to sort of try and tarnish somebody else's marriage or try and tarnish somebody else's image. So I'm happy that you had, Leisha call her out and say it's unacceptable. You're disrespectful, not only to Leah, but you're disrespectful to myself and you're disrespectful to my husband. And you had Reiss just sitting there, just reading the room and just listening to what was going on. And you could tell that, he didn't like it. And I love that Rebecca asked Leah that, where is the boundaries? Where is the boundaries for you and Lee? Because at the end of the day, Lee kissed somebody. But if you did that, then it would be a problem. If you flirt, it's a problem. But it's okay for her to kiss somebody else. This is when Lee pivoted and started going after Leah and Leisha, trying to sort of take the dirt away from her. She knows the experts are watching her. She's trying to come across, as the victim in this situation and to get the empathy. And so the idea that suddenly she is painting everybody else as the villain, I didn't like it. If you don't like the person you're matched with, pack your bags and go home. There's no need for all this unnecessary drama. But anyway, I digress. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 31. Bye guys.